We began today's readings with a passage from a man who spent his life studying the law and the prophets. When this text was written during the latter half of the 2nd century BC, Greek Hellenistic culture had already taken hold of the Mediterranean region, and many Jews had questioned whether their ancient traditions could withstand the comprehensiveness and depth of Greek thought. The author of our first reading, Ben Sirach, exhorted the people to remain true to their traditions and warned against adopting Hellenistic standards. Ben Sirach wrote to show that the Jewish way of life was superior to the Greek, that genuine worship was found in Jerusalem, not in Athens. In today's reading from the book of Sirach, Ben Sirach confronts his audience with a fundamental truth. He tells them, you are free. You are free to choose. Isn't that wonderful? All of us want to have the freedom to do what we want. He says, nothing holds you back. Just reach out your hand and take what you want. If you want to do good, follow God's commandments and act faithfully, well, that's great. You can do it. It's your choice. And if you choose otherwise, no one will stop you. But know this, if the world falls apart around you because you choose evil, it's nobody's fault but your own. Don't blame God. He didn't make you do it. It was your choice. Ben Sirach then imparts some wisdom. He says, when you choose, know that the difference between good and evil, the difference from following the commandments of God or not, is the difference between life and death. To choose good, to choose life, is to love God. To choose to love is a love shown by obedience, by walking in God's ways, and by obeying His voice. On the other hand, to choose death is to choose other gods. To be dead to worship is to worship idols, anything and everything that is not of God. But at the end of the day, Ben Sirach says, it's your choice. So much for Ben Sirach's wisdom. In today's second reading, written some 200 years later, the inspired Paul speaks to the citizens of Corinth and expands upon the wisdom of Ben Sirach. Paul speaks of a wisdom not of human origin. He speaks of a mature wisdom, a wisdom unknown to the rulers of the day, and still unfamiliar to many people this day. God's paradoxical wisdom. And the paradox is this: if you want to live, if you want to have life, then you must die. To choose life over death means choosing life through death, through the death of Christ, through the cross. We've all heard this message before. Jesus tells us, whoever does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. My friends, we know that choosing life isn't always easy. Seeing the reality of being a Christian means seeing both joy and suffering as we share in Jesus' cross by choosing life. By choosing life through death, we participate in and play our part in the ongoing saving work of Christ. What you and I do, especially when we suffer, is not to choose life for ourselves, but to choose to touch another life. Choosing to take up our cross means that it's not all about me. When we embrace God's paradoxical wisdom, through His mysterious and sometimes hidden grace, when we choose life through death, through sacrifice, through compassion and forgiveness, we touch another life. And that life turns and touches another, and so on, and so on, until who knows where it stops. St. Paul reminds us that God has good things planned for those who love him. In today's gospel, we continue the journey begun 2 Sundays ago, a journey through Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. By meditating on today's gospel, we are invited to consider real and tangible ways to choose God's paradoxical wisdom, to choose life through death, to embrace a life in Christ. Jesus challenges his listeners to reread the commandments, the law of Moses. What Ben Sirach said about choosing to keep the commandments is true, but Jesus reveals more. Jesus' wisdom offers a definitive way to say yes to choosing life through death, to choosing both freedom and responsibility through the law. My friends, God's aim in giving the law to Israel, was not to produce heroically righteous individuals. The law was given to his chosen people to create a particular kind of community, a model for living peacefully, justly, and faithfully with others. This is what Jesus seeks to accomplish in the Sermon on the Mount. He neither replaces the law nor Israel itself. He fulfills and redeems the intentions of both. Jesus says, "You have a choice. But I tell you, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. You will not have life." And we often think that being righteous means that we are better, nicer, and more ethical. You know what I mean. The righteous attend Mass every week. They give of their time, talent, and treasures. The righteous avoid common vices and, for the most part, treat others kindly. But isn't this righteousness a version of what the scribes and Pharisees were devoted to? They would say they lived that way. The wisdom of Jesus offers a new way to choose, to be free, to choose life, and to live righteously by the law as handed down by Moses. A new way formed not by rules, but by love, mercy, and charity. A righteousness that fulfills the very heart of the commandments. When Jesus speaks in today's gospel of killing, adultery, and taking false oaths, he doesn't ask us to treat the law in a formalistic way. This I can do, this I can't, or maybe I shouldn't, or I can do only this thing up to a point, or up to this point I probably shouldn't. No, Jesus tells us to focus on our interior disposition, to focus on our heart, the heart which is the center of our intentions, decisions, words, and actions. From the heart comes both evil and good. When I embrace God's wisdom, I am in effect choosing life, but life through death, death to myself. When I accept God's law in my heart, I understand that my desires must be guided. It's not good to give in to angry, selfish, and possessive kind of feelings. When I don't love my neighbor or treat every human being with dignity, I, to some extent, kill not only my neighbor, but I kill myself. Because hatred, rivalry, jealousy, it all destroys fraternal charity, which is the basis of my relationship with another. Today, Ben Sirach and St. Paul remind us that we have the freedom to choose. The freedom to choose good and evil, life or death, the freedom to choose human wisdom or God's wisdom, the freedom to love. Today, Jesus opens a door that leads to a deeper union, not only with God, but with each other. When we embrace the law as not a set of rules, but as a loving response to the God who loved us first, our lives are uprooted from anger, lust, selfishness, and falsehood. When we embrace the heart of the commandments, all of them, we cannot honor another person without blessing God our Creator. When we embrace the heart of the law, And we say we love God. We must also love our neighbor. And if we don't, then we don't love God. Is this easy? Of course not. But know that Jesus offers us the help of his love. He came into this world not only to fulfill the law, but to give us his grace as well. Jesus invites us to walk on the path he has shown us today, a path which begins from the heart. This is how we are called to live as Christians.